Hello, everyone, and welcome into crushthestreet.com. I got a very distinct honor here today to obviously get an update on the crypto market, but we're going to be doing that with Joel Valenzuela. And he's part of the Dash Force core team. He's the chief editor there. Part of Dash in general, somebody who's lived off of crypto now for a number of years, a contributor for Cointelegraph, a true authority in the space here. And I think it's going to be a timely update because I know a lot of people are kind of wondering what's going on with crypto. We're not all checking our phones daily for the price, right? So we're going to get a good update today. Joel, thanks for coming on Crush the Street with me today.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
So I got to be honest, many people got excited about crypto because of the price, right? That was their introduction. And now that price isn't exciting anymore, many of these people have moved on, sort of like a relationship based only on sex, right?
Hmm.
And so I'd like to kind of get your thoughts on what's going on in general in the space. And what are your thoughts on crypto?
Yeah, so I've got involved in cryptocurrency in early 2013 because I saw this as a technology that could fundamentally change the way humans conduct business and structure, especially their finances. And I got really excited at the implications, and that really hasn't waned. So we had a lot of people, in my opinion, over the years, sort of half paying attention to cryptocurrency, not really giving it its full due, thinking it was just a flash in the pan. And then when the price went really high, people assumed, wow, this means it's for real, and then all got in on it. And then when the price corrected, then I guess they changed. A lot of them may have changed their minds. I haven't seen the fundamentals change at all. I have seen a whole lot of projects have come out of that big spike of that energy to just try to almost throw anything at the wall that sticks. Just like we're in an innovation machine here. We're gonna just invent anything. It doesn't have to be viable long term, but we'll just produce things. And you're seeing a lot of those really start to slow down now. But that doesn't mean that cryptocurrency as a whole has slowed down one bit. In fact, I kind of see the opposite.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting thing. So what is happening then that would make you excited about it, bullish about the future? And one thing that I would mention is it seems like things kind of got hampered, or the wet blanket got put on it when the authorities kind of started to not allow these companies to really go public in the way that they want to. It's kind of still this rogue thing now. And is that going to be an issue going forward, or is this the whole point of why cryptocurrency exists, is to sidestep the regulations and the controls that are out there and really give the power to the individual?
Yeah, I definitely think that the ethos of cryptocurrency is exactly something that no one can properly control or crush. And that was kind of the origin the hype has kind of changed over the years. I remember in the early days, people were saying all kinds of crazy things about Bitcoin, saying this is going to change everything. No one's going to be able to stop it. This is going to end the banking system as we know. This is going to end even the governments as we know. This is going to end everything. Like all this, like that's kind of where it came out of. And then now you see a little bit of an opposite thing where they're like, well, let's hope the SEC makes a favorable decision. And I think that the truth is probably
point, right?
Yeah, it's probably a little bit in between the two. It's kind of, this is a technology like the printing press or any major innovation that will kind of disrupt a lot of things and will be difficult, if not impossible, to completely regulate if it were tried to be stamped out. But at the same time, historically, regulations have been a framework for dealing with reality rather than a dictator of the reality itself. And so I do think that over time, you will see cryptocurrencies become more mainstream and become accepted and become integrated into present legal frameworks.
So, Joel, I'd like to ask you about Dash. I mean, Dash has been one of the most exciting cryptocurrencies that are out there, digital cash that are out there. I mean, in the North American Bitcoin conference in Miami, Dash was front and center, the big bus, and I think they even hosted an event at a strip club. I mean, that's how like crazy everything was getting,
Yeah,
right?
that was
Huh?
that was more on the event organizers. The Dash crew had no idea that it would be at that location, but it is kind of funny to look at it in retrospect.
Well,
Not the best way
it
to
was a
maintain
little
clients.
confusing because even on the official
Mm.
paperwork at the event, I mean, it wasn't completely understood that it was that sort of place.
Yeah, and that is a very it's a great snippet of the time. This was the time when everyone was high and mighty. Everyone was just thinking that the entire old financial system would be gone by the next year, and everyone would be multi millionaires by the next year, and everything would be going. And so there's a little bit of that attitude among some of the, for example, in these big crypto conferences of, wow, bigger is better. Wow, we'll just make it rain. How about we have some fun entertainment? And just there was a lot of that kind of stuff going on. And Dash has historically been kind of the opposite of that, a little bit almost not heard as much, even because of a more measured approach to a long-term growth, which is, I mean, one of the reasons why this year has been Dash's best year ever, in my opinion. And while the whole market, price and Dash included, has been going way down, or is not recently, but has been gone way down for most of the year. Even despite that, I don't think that it's lost any momentum whatsoever.
Yeah, no, that is exciting. And one of the things that you brought up is that people are or projects have come about because of the amount of money that there was in the sector. There's a lot of capital that was attracted in 2017, especially in this bull market. And so I'm curious, because there's been a lot of incentive to create something in the crypto space. Are there any of these incentives that you see viable, exciting, or actually worthwhile that you're excited about?
Yes. So what we've seen a lot has been the Bitcoin was a proof of concept of that something like this can work. And then just about every other project under the sun tried to figure out a new thing to provide, a new a new offering to bring to the table. And then investors have been more than happy to throw money at something that might pan out very well. It's sort of like the Wild West, the gold rush, the dot-com bubble. All this kind of stuff is, you see something that's great and new, and you start throwing money at it to see what will succeed. And in most of those cases, probably the vast majority of people did not make it out ahead through throwing money at random things. And but it's definitely been worth it because of those who have come about. I mean, think of where we'd be today without a dot-com bubble. Where would we be without, like, say, an Amazon, changing our lives, drone flying packages into our backyards and everything. It's so the big difference I see coming in this year and the next and over the next few years is, in 2017 there was a lot of development and white papers and a lot of promise around what they could provide, what these new technologies could create and provide. And then you kind of see a lack of application in the real world, which of course is sort of the same thing that hits all cryptocurrencies, not just projects that might not be around long term. Well, I think that the digital gold rush of 2018, 2019 is projects actually starting to become viable for business. So, for example, say you invest in a payment coin, and then several major industries start to use this to actually make profits and save on transaction fees and things like that. And then as a result, the demand goes up as the result of the demand for actual present day use, as opposed to past speculative use. I think that that's going to be the real game changer, where you get some either companies that use cryptocurrency to actually make a profit, or you get some cryptocurrencies that are being used by said companies. And I think that's probably where you're going to see most of the action.
Yeah, no, that is an exciting thing. Um, so Joel, we have something. We have a special access to you in the sense that we get to hear about Dash. What is going on with Dash? And I guess I'm biased towards cryptocurrencies that are actually for the purpose of money, because there's a lot of blockchain applications out there, data storage, what have you, betting online, decentralized, prediction markets, all these different things. But for me, the big issue was uh, sidestepping the banking system, having a real alternative to the current banking system. And that was so beautiful. What was so beautiful about Bitcoin and Dash has been one of those projects that were similar to that. And, I'm sure you would believe that Dash is superior to Bitcoin in that sense. So, yeah, I mean, explain Dash to people if, they've never heard about it, which I'd be surprised, in maybe a brief sort of way here. But then talk to us about what's going on and what has you excited about it.
Yeah, so Dash, the word Dash is a portmanteau of digital cash. It's a cryptocurrency made for use as a payment system. Sort of like you could say Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Dash is meant to be the exact same thing, only with a few tweaks to make it better for that. For example, Dash was one of the first coins to have enhanced privacy so that you don't have all your funds necessarily exposed every time you make a transaction. As well, Dash has instant confirmations, which there's a special function called instant send that allows transactions to be as good as settled in about 1.3 seconds, which makes it much more applicable to point of sale merchants, things like that, and also, for example, to exchanges, to where you could send a large amount or any amount of Dash to an exchange and it would be confirmed instantly. So if you don't have to keep your money on exchanges to be able to take advantage of quick trades. So that's Dash's main premise, and over the last couple of years, Dash has been working on a update to make a lot of features such as, say, usernames and friending and accounts and things like that, all protocol level in a completely decentralized way, basically giving a smooth, like Venmo type payment app experience, but making it in a completely decentralized and censorship resistant cryptocurrency. And so obviously Dash has been working on a lot of development in that regard. Although the big thing I'm really excited about is Dash is starting to be used as money a whole lot of places. So, I mean, the giant success story, which you kind of have to start with, is Venezuela. So right now, over 1,600 merchants in Venezuela accept Dash as payments. This can be anything from local restaurants to auto dealerships to tattoo parlors, even the Calvin Klein store there, several Subway locations, several Papa John's locations in Venezuela all accept Dash, and there's tons of videos out there, people going and spending it out there. It's not just in Venezuela, though. I mean, right here, I live in New Hampshire, which is probably another one of the very top hotbeds for cryptocurrency. And there's dozens of restaurants and other businesses around that where I can spend my Dash directly in a point of sale environment. Not to mention, an auto dealership recently started to accept Dash and is giving a special promotion for people who buy their cars in it. So it's basically, it reminds me a lot of that 2014, 2015 kind of, oh, wow, look at this guy buying this thing with Bitcoin. Oh, look at that. It's like, it's a lot of that same energy, although I have a feeling from being around then, being around now, that there was a lot more energy and spontaneous kind of adoption with Bitcoin back in the day, whereas at Dash it's been a lot of long hard work in the darkness, just trudging along, talking to business after business, having a plan, having a well-trained sales team go to door to businesses, et cetera, et cetera.
No, that is really exciting. Okay, so we had a pretty epic build out in 2017. We kind of talked about that a little bit, the positives of it. Any negative or anything in the space that might have you concerned or you wish that was different?
Yeah, I would say two main things. First off, Bitcoin transitioned from a currency to a store of value. And whatever you might say about that transition, it seems like there was a little bit of disruption involved in that. And there was a lot of momentum that went behind Bitcoin as a currency, as a payment system, that then sort of had nowhere to go. And so right now, I believe that a lot of projects such as Dash are trying to recapture that old momentum. But it seems like there's a little hiccup as far as what I personally care about, which is just spending it everywhere, using it as your everyday money. There was a little bit of a hiccup and a delay of the momentum that was happening. And it is what it is. And that was a little bit of a downside. But also, I think that a lot of people might have gotten burned last year because they started putting money into cryptocurrencies thinking that they would go higher and higher and higher, which some might eventually, but using it as a kind of get rich quick scheme, and not all through bad intentions. Like some people just thought, wow, this is about to be the biggest thing ever and it's about to be immensely more valued than today. I better get in. And then a lot of people lost a lot of money and then became disillusioned. Of course, old school veterans like myself who've been in the space for half a decade don't are not phased by that at all. We've seen the markets go up and down. We know exactly what it is we're getting into. We know exactly that a massive peak in the markets is possibly a little artificial or just not necessarily going to stay at that level short to midterm. But then there's a lot of people who I think got excited and just thought that this is their our last chance to get in before the rocket ship takes us all to the moon. And they might have gotten burned and they might have kind of been out of cryptocurrency after that. I don't know. Most of the people in Dash kind of knew all along, kind of were not disappointed, I would say, because they tend to be a little bit more of a careful, discerning investor who knows exactly what they're getting into, a little more long game. But there's a lot of people and there have been some people in Dash as well, of course, but there's been a lot of people in a lot of other projects, especially that have probably been burned on cryptocurrency and will not be around for the next wave when it's like everyone's getting in again. And then it might be it's sort of like when you have a bad experience at your business and you have a customer or a few who are burned, even if you fix the problem, it's harder to get them back later.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that I would say is, Bitcoin obviously started off last year at 1,000. Even if it went only to 7,000, we would still be like, wow, that was an epic bull market. But the fact is, nobody knew that the market was going to stop at 20,000. It could have stopped at 10. It could have been 40 or 50,000. I mean, everybody, we were all, scratching our heads, trying to ring the bell at the top, but that's impossible. It's impossible to know exactly when that was going to happen. Same thing for Dash, Ethereum, you go down the list. So I guess you alluded to this already, and I'm not sure if you have anything else to add, but in your opinion, was the rise in crypto assets too much, too fast in your opinion, or was it just a function of the natural free market? And in the natural free market, there's good, there's bad, there's casualties, and it is what it is.
Could be a little bit of both. I mean, I do think that obviously in a free market, stuff goes up, stuff goes down. And one thing that I've always been a person who was deeply skeptical of almost the entirety of ICOs for exactly the reason of it's just too easy to raise a whole bunch of money and have nothing behind it. But I have never been a critic of ICOs being able to do that because I do believe in freedom and lack of friction in either in sending and receiving money as well as raising capital. And so I think that it's just a necessary part of a free market. And of course, what is seen and what is not seen, right? Sometimes you see just a massive expansion of investment that then gets burned and you think, oh, that's bad, that needs to be regulated. But sometimes what you don't see is all the world-changing innovations that have come out of this radical freedom to invest and create capital. And so I think that it definitely evens out on the long term. So I don't think it was too much too soon in terms of something that needs to be kind of contained. But I do think that there was probably a lot of speculative fueling that a lot of people kind of, and I think that not maybe not crypto veterans, but some people in the crypto space who were there before might have been a little bit complicit in talking a little bit too much to their friends and family and other people like that about, oh, it's great, it's going up, woo, I'm going to retire in like a month, and just fueling that kind of it's going up kind of dialogue. And of course, the whole time I was looking at other things like, for example, what are transaction counts? What are transaction fees? What is the state of development on these platforms? What is the state of community and governance in these separate projects? What is all like? I was looking at all those sorts of metrics, and it's not necessarily just a yeehaw, it's going to the moon kind of a picture at that point. There's always some balance. And so, I mean, I hope that the people who got involved last time, who either fueled the bubble, who fueled excessive speculation, or who kind of bought in exclusively because of the get rich quick aspect, and not because they actually believe this would be around long term as a real viable game changer to the financial system. I'm pretty sure, and I'm kind of hoping that they'll take a backseat to the more hardworking innovators on this next run up, whenever that happens.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you there, and it's unfortunate in the sense that, you know, I know a lot of people may have lost money and they were unable to experience the upward price action. So their experience is a lot different than maybe someone else's who, you know, maybe bought Bitcoin or Dash in the you know, very cheap early days, you know, Dash $10, let's say, and Bitcoin a couple $100. I mean, they're still doing very, very well for themselves. So your opinion on cryptocurrency is a lot different, right? And if you've had that experience and then if you haven't. So I guess with that, Joel, if people want to learn more about what you do and, you know, where would they go? What would they find? And, you know, obviously, you know, share some closing thoughts here.
Yeah, sure. So I write for dashforcenews.com, and it's the number one. So I think it's the only Dash focused news publication out there. And so if you want to hear about all the crazy exciting things going on with Dash, as things have been really picking up over the last year, definitely go there. And discoverdash.com is a global merchant listing of every single known merchant that accepts Dash. And I would suggest you go there and just look in your local area, see if there might be some places you can actually spend it. If you're lucky like me in New Hampshire, you might have dozens of businesses in your local small town. Or if you're in Venezuela, or if you're in Kiev, or even Austria, you might find some good hotspots. And then maybe if you're in some like remote Texas town, you might not. But I would definitely go there and check out and just kind of see for yourself where this whole thing is being used. And just in general, I would just say keep watching, because there has been no slowdown for some. This has been a crazy year of hard work and growth in sectors that actually really matter and will last long term, and building the foundation of what's going to be something that I still believe is going to be one of the biggest positive upsets in the history of humanity.
Joel, quick add-on question. What are your thoughts on Ethereum, considering much of what it was fueled was these ICOs and all these different tokens, you know, and having to use Ethereum, and now that a lot has turned around for the ICOs especially, it's put a lot of pressure on Ethereum. What are your thoughts on Ethereum long-term?
I have not been very closely following Ethereum developments. I do know that a lot of people in the beginning, myself included, got excited at the prospect of smart contracts and things like that. And then, of course, I'm a big believer in what I call mainnet testing, which is you can't just test your product on testnet and then just say it works. You have to throw it out in the real world and see what comes of it. And the market decided that according to its current economics and its current functionality, Ethereum was best suited for ICOs and virtual pets. And so that's kind of what happened. And so I have to qualify with the following statement. So bear with me. I do believe that Ethereum so far has kind of been a failure. But that's kind of the point of any good project is you have to, you don't know if it's going to be a success until you know it doesn't work. You have to put it out there, see what happens to it. And so if Ethereum is a failure, it is only through being such a failure that it can be a resounding success. Will it be a resounding success? I don't know. I think it was definitely a pioneer in the space in a whole lot of ways. And I definitely think that the main idea behind it is solid. And I think that they found out that it was, as you know, the pioneer gets the arrows in the back. As the first person to come out there, you kind of field test all these ideas, and then you start realizing, oh, it's not that simple. And it's what you do with that is what defines the project or not. So I'm kind of 50-50 on it, because we have to see the pivot. If the pivot is in the exact right direction, if a lot of these lingering issues get resolved and the economics get fixed, et cetera, and you start seeing businesses actually use Ethereum smart contracts to run and improve their business model, et cetera, then that's when I'll start to get really excited about Ethereum.
Okay, so one more follow-up question.
Yeah, no
It
problem.
reminded me of Bitcoin. What are
Mm-hmm.
your thoughts on Bitcoin? Do you believe Bitcoin has proven itself to be a viable uh, wealth storage vehicle, and can it evolve? Can it, I guess, be robust enough to continue to absorb the demand if people decide to continue to use it, or is that why you're in Dash?
So I mean, if you ask, is Bitcoin a good store of value? Well, ask people who bought in December how well it stored their wealth. Probably it's probably still a little test case like that. Is how probably held its value more than other cryptocurrencies at this point. I personally believe that Bitcoin will be sort of the elder statesman slash the standard that a lot of other projects get compared to long term. Over. I could, of course, be wrong. I don't think that Bitcoin is going to be the project that gets directly used in a whole lot of commerce long term.
Hmm.
I do think it is proving to be the purest form of what a lot of these cryptocurrencies are based off of. And there's a lot of, well, let's look and see how Bitcoin did it first, or let's see how Bitcoin's doing before we do this. There's going to be a lot of that looking back to the originator as we see things moving forward. So I think it's going to be an important standard, but more of like an industry standard rather than a publicly used thing. As in, I don't think the average person is going to have Bitcoin on their phone and be using it and sending and receiving it, other than possibly through an investment app. I think that that'll be mostly other projects that'll have that kind of polish to make it to mass market. I mean, it's been almost a decade that Bitcoin's been around. It's proved itself, it's proved its worth, and it's also proved that it's not ready for prime time yet. And I don't know if it's meaning to be, but it doesn't have to be. Everything is, if you think about it, we're all Bitcoin. So Bitcoin came out and proved an idea, and it proved that it worked, and it's still around. And I would hesitate to say that Dash isn't Bitcoin. I mean, Dash is based on a Bitcoin's code base, and has some improvements. It comes from the same basic idea. And so I would say that the success of something like Dash is the success of Bitcoin.
Well, there you have it, everyone. And I will remind everyone that our relationship with cryptocurrency and our belief in it goes deeper than price, sex, action. So we're in it for the long haul here, guys. This is an industry that's still in its infancy. And again, because of the nature of the internet, it's something that's out of the hands of regulators and control. And for people that live in Venezuela, Argentina, or other parts of Africa or Asia that might be dealing with some problems with the banking system and the governments, the solutions to cryptocurrency, the solutions that cryptocurrencies have brought, has really been appreciated by areas that really need it. And I know it's sometimes hard to wrap our minds around that if we're living in the US or maybe certain parts of Europe or Canada, what have you, that have some sort of stability in their system. but this is continuing to build out. And I appreciate Joel for coming on the line and sharing his insights with us. Joel, thanks for coming on Crush the Street with me today.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.